Hello and welcome today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and I'm going to start today's show with a little bit of a mom brag, and you're all just going to have to live with it. This past Saturday, my 22-year-old took their sheet metal journeyman's test, and I'm thrilled and super proud that they passed. And I just want to give a little shout out to the Voc for setting him on this path, which is really awesome and perfect for him. It was a great chance for him. He went to school, did a co-op, got hired by the co-op, and they've been supporting him in this journey. So very proud mom today. With
Excellent.
that, thank you, Mike.
Congratulations. That's great news.
Thank you. I'm really excited for him and to see him celebrating such an accomplishment is kind of fun. We don't get to do that
Yeah,
very often.
that's great. And I have a little Grampy news myself. I'm wearing my pink tie because this past Saturday, my son John and his wife Corrine had their baby girl Maeve at Winchester Hospital. So mom and dad and baby Maeve are all doing great. I just got a text that they're on their way home right now from Winchester Hospital. So this is our first grandchild, and we could not be happier. So in honor of that, I wore my pink tie.
I love it. And I have to say, I saw those beautiful cheeks and baby faces in the pictures, and
Yeah,
she's absolutely stunning and going into a fabulous family that adores her already.
they sure do adore her already.
I love it. Well, good weekend all the way around for folks. Hopefully, everyone else as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
Excellent. I almost hate to transition to real business after all that joyous fun, but let's dig in. There's a lot going on, and actually, this is kind of fun. The first thing I wanted to chat about, we had what I thought was a really productive discussion with the community around the old Wyman School, the castle building, and what people might want to see come of that building and what they'd like to do. And we know that this is something the city council is involved in. Joe Demers helped run that meeting and used it as a
Yep.
really important listening session. And I thought for those folks who maybe weren't in the room or maybe were, but didn't weren't able to sort of capture the end, thought it might be helpful to talk a little bit about what happens next. We've had some great feedback, some wonderful ideas. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. So last summer, the school committee voted that they no longer needed the old Wyman School for educational purposes. So that's the first step in the process. They make that determination. Once they did that, it was up to me to then notify the city council of that and seek disposition of the property. And that's kind of a broad catch-all phrase. It could be anywhere from putting the building and the site on the auction block to listening to guidance and direction from the city council on some other use of the property. So we're in that stage right now. I sent a memo to the city council. They have it in their committee right now. They're reviewing options for that property and steps forward. So the logical first step, usually in a case like this, would be for the city councilor of the area, the ward councilor, to begin to garner some feedback and some input from the residents in the area and neighbors in the ward, of course, across the city as well. So that's the stage we're in right now. Councilor Demers from Ward 4 hosted a well-attended neighborhood meeting last week at the library. I don't know exactly, but I'd say there must have been 150 people there, standing room only. And Joe basically just, as you said, viewed it as a listening session. There was some rough ideas on what options might look like, and then people were allowed to weigh in and offer their own thoughts. The prevailing sentiment in the room was people would like to see the castle preserved in some way. Exactly what that looks like, there's more work to be done. There's more discussion to be had, more estimates of costs and ideas to occur. So I think you'll probably see maybe one or two more of these listening kind of sessions. There was a consensus in the room that night, but again, there's 42,000 people that live in Woburn, so we like to give people an opportunity to be heard across the city. So I think what you might see again, another one of these listening sessions or neighborhood meetings or information sessions. And then after that, depending on the feedback and the consensus and some distillation of ideas down to some workable thoughts, I guess you could see either the council notifying me that they would like me to dispose of the property by way of auction, like we've done with a couple of the fire stations, or I would say more likely some development ideas brought forward, and maybe even what's called the request for proposals process, the RFP process, where we basically put out to the community and to the development world, hey, we have this property, we have some ideas that we think would work there. Please take this framework, this RFP process framework, and tell us how you think we might best use that property, what you could do with it, and how that might benefit the city. And then as a result of that RFP process, the council could, I guess, further hone their guidance to me of what they'd like to see the city do with that property. So I'd say we're early on in the process. It'll take a little while to get to a point where I think we have specific ideas and steps and a path forward. But now is definitely the time for people in Woburn to weigh in and to reach out to the city councilors or the mayor's office and let us know what you might like to see, and then we can go from there. I think it's fair to say that we're not going to please everybody, because even at the one meeting we've had so far, there were several ideas kicked around, and if you go with idea A, you might upset the person who thinks idea B is better. So we'll work through all that. We understand we're not going to be able to come to a resolution that every single person is thrilled with, but we'll try to get to a point where most people are satisfied and happy with what we decide to do with that building.
Thank you. And, also, I think I know Joe and all of us really appreciate all the people who came out and shared ideas and are passionate about our city. And it's great to see us
Yep.
use that input to focus our efforts on something people really care a lot about and see how we can meet everyone's needs in a way there. So beginning of the process, no decisions
Yep.
made. Definitely heard the feedback really clearly, which was good, and lots of good ideas shared. And we'll continue to keep people posted as that progresses slowly over time.
Yeah, I think people appreciate, the landmark that is the castle at the Wyman School,
Mhm.
and they'd like to see that preserved in some way. What ends up being inside the castle, uh, we're not sure yet, but I think the overwhelming consensus in that room and even in other forums and social media, just talking around the city, it sounds like people would like to see what's known as the castle stay and not be torn down, not be radically changed. So, I think we've heard that, and now it's a matter of trying to find a use that most people can get behind and that benefits the overall best interest of the city.
Excellent. We have less of a emotional attachment to the rest of the building, but
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
would say that's fair to say.
Yeah, but I think it was great. So, beginning of the process, thanks for you and everyone who's been talking with folks and collecting feedback. One of the other things that we hear a lot of feedback around always is traffic and intersections and things happening. And right now, we're doing a study to collect some more information about a particular intersection, Commerce Way. I'm going to look at my sheet. I'm going to get the right three streets, Commerce, Presidential, and Atlantic Ave, and sort of where all of that comes together.
Yeah,
And it's definitely a place that we get a lot of feedback on. It's very busy part of the community and city, and we think there might be some opportunities to improve that. Now, that's a state intersection area, if I'm
yeah,
correct. And I thought
right.
it might be helpful to talk a little bit about, because we're working with state agencies in this, what this process looks like.
Yeah, so we are working closely with MassDOT. Jay Corey, the city engineer, is working closely. He has great relationships with MassDOT. As you say, it's a feeder road to Interstate 93 to the Anderson Regional Transportation Center. So there's a lot going on in that area. It's the good news is the work that had been done when the intersection and the roadways were first created were significant, There's plenty of room there.
Mhm.
You know, there's the room for growth. It's not like we need to widen the road or take land or
Mhm.
anything. We're in a good position. And now we're really trying to improve the movements of the intersection, the traffic lights, the turning lanes, and make it flow a little bit better. So to your point, because it's a feeder road to an interstate highway, MassDOT has jurisdiction. They've been great. We've been working with them. We've
Mhm.
been working with the Woburn Police Traffic Division. Sergeant Stokes has been working with MassDOT as well as the engineer on practical solutions and timing of lights and turning lanes. So we've made a couple of tweaks already. We feel like we're making some progress, but you know the survey is out there to try to gain as much input from people as we can, those who use the intersection, to make sure that when we implement these measures, they actually work and they make things better for people. So it's a work in progress, but we are making some progress.
Excellent. Now we also have lots of local streets. One area that got a little bit too much attention last week, the last couple of weeks, we had a couple accidents at Green and Nashua, unfortunately. I pick on that intersection because we get a lot of feedback on that. There's definitely been an area of concern there. We've done some work and some things.
Yeah.
But when we have local roads, the process that we go through in terms of addressing it is different than when we're working with our state partners. And I thought it'd be a good example to talk a little bit about what we've been doing and what we're hoping to do in the future.
Yeah. So we are looking closely at that intersection, Green, Nashua, Holden Street. Um, yeah, it's a local road. So I guess you could say we have the liberty of making adjustments as needed without requiring permission of a partner. But if there were significant improvements to be made at that intersection, it would likely be through the use of the TIP program administered by the state, and would be vying for some of the TIP money, so we wouldn't have to spend all of our own money. So we've actually begun the process of exploring a long-term solution to that intersection that would require TIP funding. But in the meantime, we've been working again with Jay Corey, the city engineer. Councilor Bill Papalato has been very helpful. He hit the ground running in that ward. This is a major priority of his. So we've had several meetings on it already. Um, we've done a couple of minor adjustments. We took down a tree that was in the way, try to improve the line of sight for cars on Holton watching up Green. Um, there's some other work planned for the springtime. We'll be milling the road a little bit and making the approach from Holton a little smoother, a little easier. Maybe some line painting and adjusting of the line of sight coming down Green to slow folks down a little bit. So those are some things we can do at our level, and we're actively doing that. That's with the use of our own funds and Chapter 90 funds that do come from the state for road work. But as I said, there is likely a longer term dramatic solution to that intersection that would involve bringing the roadway down and maybe someday, depending on whether the traffic warrant, is there, to put lights. And that would be a TIP project, not something we could fund on our own here in Woburn. So to credit Councilor Papalato, he is exploring long-term, medium-term, short-term solutions, and we're trying to do what we can to make it safer. As you said, there were a couple of tractor trailer issues the last couple of weeks with trucks that really don't belong on the road, taking turns that they probably had no business taking, got hung up, caused an inconvenience to traffic and to neighbors, and pulled some wires down. So we definitely have this particular intersection on our radar. We're trying to do things to make it a little better than it is now.
Yeah, thank you. Having the pleasure of sitting in on some of the weekly discussions that we have about engineering projects and traffic, I've learned an awful lot this last year about the complexities, even, other intersections that seem very simple, like, oh, let's just do this. There's actually really strict rules about what we can and can't do in the process you have to follow, even for roads that we own and are responsible for. And
Yeah,
that's a much more labor intensive process than I ever knew about. And I
yeah,
have an appreciation for it now.
yeah. They're definitely industry standards by which you need to act when you're making road improvements. It might seem simple to just throw stoplight up or throw a stop sign or do this to the road. But there are rules and regulations and standards that you have to abide by. And we have Jay Corey, our city engineer, who can recite this stuff in his sleep. He's an expert. Great having him on the team. As folks probably realize, Jay is trying to retire. We have hired a replacement. We expect that gentleman to start later this month. There'll be a transition period where Jay works with Alex, the new engineer, and then at some point Jay will be allowed to actually go enjoy his retirement. But he's a tremendous asset. He has so much experience and strong relationships with all the partners in the area. It'll be tough to lose Jay, but we feel like we'll be in good hands with Alex.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely has earned his retirement. That's for sure. So, we did have some really good news, and people have been giving us great feedback about it. We won a grant. The Commission on Disability and our grant office worked together to get some mobility mats for Library Field, and it's always fun to celebrate those wins in ways that we can help serve the community better.
Yeah, a great collaboration there between the commissions in town and the department staff. In this case, Commission on Disability working closely with Planning Department and our grant writer and administrator, Kevin McDonough, who again, he's hit the ground running. He's doing great work here in the city. We've had a couple of instances now where the commissions and the planning department have worked really closely to advance projects. We've had instances where the Commission on Disability worked with the Recreation Commission as well to advance projects. It's really great to see that collaboration. Everybody's pulling in the same direction with the same goal. And this particular grant will allow us to create a situation where more Woburnites can access Library Field. These mobility mats will make it easier. And when we have our movie nights and we have, our festivals and we have Flag Day and the Mayor's Field Day, this will make it a little bit easier for some of our fellow Woburnites to be able to enjoy those events. So we're really happy and we appreciate the cooperation between the Commission on Disability and the grant writer and the planning department. And I'd just like people in Woburn to realize that this is happening every single day. People in Woburn are working, as a team, and we're accomplishing pretty cool things. And that's the climate and the culture we're trying to create here, where they're not only doing their job well, but they're trying to think of a way to do their job in a way that might help another department do their job better. And that's the collaboration that I think we're seeing, and it's bearing fruit. So we're very happy.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of that coming to fruition. I was really blessed that Jan Fuller, who's the chair of the Commission on Disability, came out to the Community Resource Center before we opened just to give me some guidance and advice about how we can optimize that space for folks who might have mobility challenges and make sure it's
Yep.
accessible to them as well. And I really appreciate that. And we had a great conversation and great input and talked about things, some additional things we might want to do over time
Yep.
together. So it was
Yeah. And
great.
as we noted, one of the other sessions, the Commission on Disability stepped up to help us finish up the park at Ferrulo Field
Yes.
to help with mobility impaired folks. And it was a great asset. And it was a priority of theirs, a priority of ours, and together we're able to make it happen. So that'll just make that park that much more enjoyable for so many of our residents.
Last week, we had our first event at the Community Resource Center. We had a grant writing workshop. Kevin was one of our instructors, our grant administrator. We were just talking about some of his work he does for the city. We had, I think there were 16 different nonprofit organizations in the room. And, this is one of the way we can help support their mission and as they help our residents, which was great. It also, earlier in the week, you had a chance to go see the space actually with furniture in it. And
Yeah.
I thought as we wrap up here today, just give you a minute to talk a little bit about how you hope that space will be helpful to residents.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. We're so grateful to Cummings Properties
Yes.
for donating that space and really helping out our community. Um, I guess I see that space as kind of like a hub where it can be the center of so much activity here in the community.
Yeah.
As you say, we've used it for training opportunities already, meeting locations. I know that sometimes when some of the residents in need would like to come in and talk about those needs, it may not be as comfortable coming into City Hall So this will be an offsite location
Mhm.
where there's a little more privacy, a little more,
Yeah.
one-on-one time. So hopefully that makes it easier and more welcoming for people in Woburn to reach out and get the services they need. And at this point, I think the sky's the limit for that space. We already have half dozen things that can happen over there, but when it comes to Samantha Stone, I don't put any limits because I know that the next big thing is right around the corner. So I'm already thrilled with everything we're doing
Okay.
here, and I just see this as another way to advance all of that and to make it more accessible and more welcoming and more successful as we here in city government try to connect those dots between the people who need help and all the great people around us who are providing that help, but the two may not have met yet. So
Yeah,
that's what I see over there at the center.
I love it. I share that vision. And, you talked earlier about different departments working together. That space is already, working with Mackenzie, who runs our substance use and mental health office here. We worked with family engagement counselors at the school. We have things going on. There's a number of nonprofits which already have things lined up to do there. We have a lost support group. So it hopefully is a place that allows us to do all of those things at, sometimes in a more private space, a different kind
Yeah,
of feeling space, but also a space that's available at hours that City Hall is closed.
right.
And
Yep.
we're going to experiment with the times that we're open and see where we're needed, and we'll adjust as we learn and grow together. So thank you as always for joining me today. Great. Next up is Jessie Wetzel. Welcome, Jessie. I'm so glad you're joining us today. We're going to talk all about early childhood education and what that means. And there's a lot going on in the schools, and you have been wonderful about going out into the community and talking. So thank you for joining us today to catch some of us up who might not have had the opportunity to listen to some of the school committee meetings, or might not have kids in the school system. So we don't always get to list, but we care about these things in the community either way. So I know that one of the ways that have been proposed to alleviating some of the overcrowding in some of our schools and getting better balance is looking at creating a early childhood center in a specific singular location. And before we talk about the approaches to that, I thought we could maybe just talk about the benefits of the groups of children and their staff coming together and why we're looking at that.
Sure, absolutely. So hi, Samantha. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's a pleasure as always. And for anyone listening, early childhood program is our fancy name for preschool,
Yes.
because it is really all about early childhood. So that's our youngest learners. Those are kiddos age 3 to 5, so prior to entering kindergarten. And so benefits, Samantha, of having all of our kids together in one building. There are many that I can think of, especially talking from to staff members that are in the early childhood program. One of the things I asked was, what would your dream ideal situation be like? And number one is we want to be together. We want to be together in one building for various reasons. One, then it's one singular location for parents to go to pick up, drop off, versus right now, the early childhood program is divided between the Reeves and the Shamrock. So there are 4 classrooms at the Shamrock and then 9 classrooms at the Reeves currently. Parents are divided between those 2 schools, staff are divided between those 2 schools, and specialty service providers drive between those 2 schools. So we don't have 2 OTs, one in each building. We have one OT who drives between. So she is spending her time from one location to the next. And she's phenomenal and is able to see all of our students. But of course, that does take away some of her student facing time having to commute. So in one building, it saves that. It saves wear and tear on her car. It saves her time. She can be spending that with students. Same with our PT and any other speech pathologist, all of those things, those people are driving between the buildings. Also, it's better for teamwork. So when you come together for staff meetings, you're one of the other groups is driving to the building that's not where their classroom is to meet. And typically, I believe they meet at the Reeves just because there is more classrooms there. But that's still a location away from where you currently sit. So some of those are fantastic reasons. Also, if we're in one location, when a parent decides they want to register for the early childhood program, they don't have to wait in anticipation to see what building they're going to be at. They know, okay, I'm going to be sending my kiddo here. and I know the pickup and drop off routine is these hours, and this is how I can fit it into my day. And for some parents, especially when a lot of families have two working parents, it makes a big difference, the location and the times. And so that's something that they're constantly looking at, parents, and evaluating. So those are some good reasons why I think it's very important. Also, too, as we're looking at our redistrict of our schools, if we have outside space for our early childhood program to go one building, it looks different as we're kind of trying to move the lines because we're differently utilizing our buildings than how we're currently utilizing them. So it is a key piece of a very large puzzle.
And for some people who might not have had kids in preschool, my kids, because of my work, were in daycare centers before kindergarten or home with dad for some years as well, because the preschool hours weren't sufficient. It is different than our normal school system. It's a wonderful program. But just to make sure everybody is aware, can you just talk a little bit about how the sessions run and what the costs are for any families who might need it?
Sure. Yeah. So it isn't a full day program. So right now we are preschool is not a required part of our public school system, but it is something that we're required to offer. So we have paying peers. So those are children that are not in IEP, so not in special education. And then we have kids that are on IEPs in special education. And those programs basically look like there's a 2 day part in preschool. So you have a morning session, which is from 8:30 to 11, and then you have an afternoon session, which is 11:50 to 2:30. And then no preschool on Wednesdays. And then some of our kiddos on IEPs do go for a slightly longer day, depending on the different services that they're getting. And then those programs end right about 1 o'clock. But we currently don't offer a 1 o'clock dismissal for any of our paying peers. So those are the kiddos not on IEPs. So it does, to your point, make it difficult if you're a 9 to 5 to figure out how will you pick up your child and either send them to another location, or is a grandparent or other caregiver able to pick them up. So it does present challenges in that regard. Something the school district has always looked at doing is, can we offer a full day program for our paying peers and our kids on IEPs, more kids on IEPs? One of the challenges we run into is space, because you need a lot more classrooms to be able to do that.
Excellent. And one of the things that you mentioned is the preschool classrooms are made up of two groups: students on IEPs, which are often students who we are required to provide services before they start kindergarten to get them ready, and that's an obligation of our education system. And then peers, so that they have inclusion and have opportunities to experience what classrooms are like and all the things that go along with that. And also some of those peers who might not be on an IEP, but benefit from being part of a classroom experience before they go into kindergarten. So there's lots of good things that happen there. Now, it sounds sort of, okay, we need 9 plus however many you said, 4 classrooms, just put them all somewhere, right? That sounds so easy. It's not easy. What makes it difficult for us today to be able to put everybody in a single building?
Sure. So right now we have the 9 and 4, so 13 total classrooms divided up into 2 different buildings. But it's not just the classroom space you're looking at. You're also looking at a nurse. You have an early childhood program coordinator. You have an OT, PT, a speech pathologist. You have all these other service providers, BCBA, psychologists that go along with that, and you need IEP meeting space. So you need classroom space, and then you need bathrooms that are equipped. You need a lot of storage because our smallest learners seem to have the most equipment. And if you even think back to babies, like anyone that had a kid, you look at the bouncers and all these things. And as they get older, everything gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It's the same thing. So we're talking about 3 to 5. It's a lot of stuff. So you need a lot of storage. And in speaking with the staff we have at the Shamrock, we do have some really nice storage space. But that's something else as we look at buildings and what makes sense, we have to keep in mind. Also, you need to think about playground space. It looks different than what you would find. A 5th grader and a 3-year-old aren't using the same equipment. And another thing to keep in mind, pick up and drop off looks very different for a 3 or a 5-year-old. A lot of times parents are picking them up or you're hand holding. Some kiddos like to run. So there's a lot that goes into it, as well as just the number of cars. The preschool brings in roughly 50 cars plus. So you need a lot of parking as well. And there's, on any given year, somewhere around the number of 200 students in the program. So last numbers we had were in September. I can I'd have to look back in my notes to get that, but I want to say it was like 98 kids on IEPs and somewhere in the 80-ish range on kids who were paying peers. And those numbers fluctuate and they change all the time. We're constantly working with early intervention for those kids coming in on IEPs, and then doing community outreach to spread the word of the public preschool, as well as, just help those families that need additional assistance in terms of knowing more about what the preschool provides and how it does, like you said, benefit students. It really does help prepare kids for kindergarten because they know how to stand in a line. They know how to sit in a circle. They know the different job charts and what it means to be the weather helper and things like that. So it's an absolutely phenomenal program and really does a great job of gearing kids up towards kindergarten. My 2 kids have gone in it, and my 3rd daughter starts on February 10th, actually. So she's got a backpack and has been ready to go since the first day of school. So it is great. I can speak highly of it as a parent and highly as a school committee member, as someone who spoke to parents inside of the program and staff members.
Well, that is exciting. I know we definitely, before my kiddos went to school, even when they were home with dad full time, spent a little time in a preschool like program because we did want them to acclimate to, you know, following a schedule, following a routine in a way that it's different than doing it at home or in other types of environments. So I'm glad that we have this program. I know lots of people get benefit from it. It does have a lot of people driving. And I don't know the answer. I think you know this. Do we have any bus transportation? This is all drop off or pick up by parents?
So any paying peer has to get to preschool by caregiver, but a child on an IEP has the option of free busing.
Okay.
They do not have to take the free bus, but we have to offer the free busing, and then you
Okay.
check yes or no if you would like it.
Yeah, and these are little ones, so they often are accompanied by someone they know and trust getting in and out of the building. So good, thank
Correct.
you for that reminder about that. I want to talk a little bit about modulars. It is one of the things I know that has been discussed at school committee meetings and proposed as a way to accomplish this. Tell us a little bit about what's available or what we're thinking about doing there.
Yeah, sure. So there was a early childhood program task force that was formed at the very end of this past summer, who officially started meeting in September, and I was chair for that for the school committee. And it was comprised of parents, administration, and staff members of the ECP. And our purpose was to think long term about the early childhood program. What are the goals? How can we accomplish those goals? So the goal was to be in one building. That is just something that the program has wanted for quite some time, understandably so. And we looked at a variety of different things to get the program there. We looked at, okay, what buildings do we have inside the city that might work? And if we have any, what's the cost of renovating those buildings? And is it functional for the ECP? What about traffic flows, drop-offs, things like that? We looked at, can we rent commercial space? What does that look like? We need a lot of space. Where can we rent that? And again, the same things. We need to look at safety, traffic, location, all of those things that you go into thinking about when you're thinking about a program. And then we looked at modulars were something that came up. We've had modulars in Woburn in the past. Many districts around us have modulars. So we did further investigation on a modular. So we actually, some of us on the committee went to Nauset High School and were able to see modular classrooms that are currently being used by the high school, and they are using them while they are constructing a new high school. So it really served a great purpose for them for the past couple of years, because they could keep the high school open and then use the modulars on the side. And we asked staff members, students, what are your thoughts on these? Rave reviews. I went in with just no expectations. I really wanted to see, okay, what is it like being inside a modular? How is this different from a standalone building? We asked questions like, how's the Wi-Fi? How's the heating? Are they soundproof? Like, can you hear between the walls? And no, it's really, on the outside, does it look slightly different than a traditional school building? It does. But on the inside, it looks like any other classroom. You're inside of a classroom, kids are having fun, they're learning, there's beautiful artwork on the wall. It was really refreshing and nice to see, and to hear from students and staff about how enjoyable it's been to be in the modulars was also fantastic. So we did look at those. I brought all that information back to the subcommittee. And after really thinking about how, again, can we get this into one building as quickly as possible, because we have to keep in mind this is a growing population of students. We're at roughly, like I said, 200-ish right now, but I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what that's going to look like. But if we have to open more classrooms in buildings where we know we're running out of space, it comes to the question, all right, well, where will this next classroom go? And the next classroom after that. So that was where modulars came in, because it helped solve that issue, and it helped get the teachers and the staff and the students into one building, and it helps with the bigger picture of a redistrict.
Now,
So
and
yeah,
just for those who might not be familiar, I think when we say the word modular, a lot of different images. Thank you for sort of painting a little bit of that picture for us already of what it looks like on the inside. Is it effectively sort of the outside, sort of a trailer, a trailer? I don't know why I can't say that word today, but whatever, I can't say it today. You know what I mean? That sits on a slab? Does it sit on the ground? Like, just tell us a little bit about what they look like today in their current use.
yeah, so it is kind of, it's like a trailer or a modular home, a mobile home. It is very similar to that. They don't sit on the ground. They can, but to extend the life expectancy and just overall usability of it, you really don't want it sitting on the ground. Animals can get under there. So you want to elevate it on like some sort of like concrete slabs. And then you need to run electricity, piping, water, all that stuff like you would have in the building needs to be ran to the modular classrooms. So I understand how your head might go to something that's rinky dink. They're really not. And actually, in my notes during the subcommittee meetings, I provided many pictures that of the modulars we happen to see at Nauset High School. And there's locally, there's school in Burlington has modulars. So there are other modulars that if people were so inclined, they could go see. You can also Google modular classrooms. Box Modular is a fairly popular modular company. So you can see images of what they look like, but my notes do have exact images from Nauset High School as they were being installed and what they look like now. So they're nice.
Excellent. And is this something, if we were to do this, is this something that we would envision doing on a temporary basis, a permanent basis? Kind of what do we see as how we might use them in Woburn if we were to move forward with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the committee, when we were looking, we were very open-minded when we started this whole process. We had no idea what was going to make the most sense until we started drilling down, drilling down, drilling down. So in terms of a location, we didn't come up with one, because really you need to look at a variety of different things if you're looking at a location for these modulars, because we wanted to make sure it's centrally located and we don't want to take away space from kids and that kind of thing. Same with the how long we would use them for. We're thinking of this as a solution for the early childhood program for the foreseeable future, because we need a space for this program to go. And it's not just going to pop up like magic tomorrow. So this would be a solution for the early childhood program until there was either new buildings or there was some other need into the city and there was some other place for that program to habitat that would make sense. But
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please finish your thought.
no, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
good. Okay. So, I know at one point, during last year's redistricting conversation, they looked at maybe the Linscott, I think, or the Alta Vista as a place where the early childhood center could be. There's lots of reasons why that didn't move forward, but what other things were considered as a place this could go if modulars were not used?
Sure. Yeah. So we did. We looked at the Linscott, we looked at the Alta Vesta, we looked at the old Wyman. We really did look at many of our other buildings inside the city, and the spaces, many reasons. One, spaces they're not big enough. So the early childhood program would be too big for the building anyhow. You would have to spend a good amount of money to renovate those buildings as well. They're not ADA compliant, and they're certainly not equipped to handle a preschool because they were currently elementary school. So even the toilet size is wrong. So it would take a lot of work to do that. And we're also looking at a city that's also growing. So we have to keep that in mind. We're working closely with Mr. Quinn during this redistrict that there's going to be a lot more units opening up in Woburn, and a lot more with 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes, which is going to likely in turn bring more kids into the city. So we have to keep that in mind as we're looking at utilizing other spaces that are currently housing elementary students that we still need those schools for these elementary students. That population is not shrinking, it's growing. In fact, our second grade is one of our biggest grades from K through 12. So, and that's a young grade. So if history continues, we're only going to get larger. And with all the buildings we're seeing, it's bringing more kids into the city, which is fantastic. But then we want to make sure we can accommodate that in our schools.
Now, the last question I want to ask about sort of the modulars in general is there is cost to use them or to have them. Certainly, we got to do the things you talked about, wire them, plumb them, get them from where they are to where we are.
Yeah.
What it would be the cost if we were to move forward with that approach for an early childhood program?
Yeah, so we're working on the cost specifically if we were to get modulars from Nauset High School, who hasn't given us a cost of what they would sell them to us for. So we are actively trying to pin that down. But a very general estimate, if I could provide that, would roughly be around $5 million. The biggest part of that with modulars isn't really the purchase, it's the transportation of the modulars from point A to point B, and then the installation and renovation of the modular. So roughly is 5 million is the number that we have right now, but we're trying to drill that down because we obviously want to give an accurate number. We don't want surprises in this process. That's not fair to the taxpayers. It's not fair to the city council or anyone involved and stakeholders in this process. So that is something we're actively working on defining.
And I know and I'm gonna Ellen will be joining us in another episode, and we'll talk a little bit more about redistricting. But what role do you see this play in the redistricting conversation? Those things happening in parallel? Does one have to happen before the other? Kind of how do they impact each other, the Early Childhood Center and that bigger process?
So they greatly impact each other. I mean, we're talking about 200 student difference. So we are right now working with Sandboard. That's the consulting team that we're working with for this redistrict. And they are coming up with multiple options, one of them being with modular use for the ECP, and then one without. So that way we can have different plans running parallel at the same time, because we're not sure where the ECP will fall into this process. And we don't want to do is have a redistrict and then move the early childhood program, because that's not fair to anyone and it doesn't make sense. So they are running at the same time. So there's a lot going on in the schools. It's very good information, but it's like I said, it's a puzzle, and we're just putting it together one piece at a time, and really making sure we have all the stakeholders involved and are listening and learning and providing as much information and transparency around it as possible.
Excellent. Thank you so much for going into detail. One of the things I really appreciate, Jessie, about you and what you're doing in the school committee is you've been holding a lot of listening sessions and you've been talking to a lot of people. I think there's one coming up tomorrow as we're taping this as well. What are you hearing from families and others about the ECP and what their hopes are for it?
Sure. So a lot of people want it in one building. Those are a lot of the parents and the staff. One of the things we're hearing though is what we just talked about is how does the ECP play a role in the redistrict, and what does it look like if it moves versus it doesn't? So that is something we're taking very, very seriously, because it is an important issue. And yes, I am holding a listening session tomorrow, and this is for any person inside of our community. It'll be focused on the early childhood program, modular space, and any thoughts. Obviously, we're open to any questions there, but that'll be at 6 o'clock tomorrow at the library in the fireplace room.
And because we know people watch this at different times and days, that's Tuesday, February 4th, correct?
Yes, fourth. I looked at my phone. I was like, I don't know.
I can't believe it's February already. Honestly, it's time is flying by. Maybe we'll start to warm up before I know it. I'm hoping.
Not according to the groundhog, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sort of diving deep into this. I know a lot of people have been chatting with you and appreciate you helping use this forum to continue the discussion. And I look forward to this continuing and exploring this with the rest of the community and learning as we go.
Me too. Thank you, Samantha. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Up next, I'm really excited. Pastor Tankersley is going to join me from St. John's Church. We're going to talk about a totally different topic, but equally important. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's good to see you again, Samantha.
It's great to see you. I had the pleasure of joining the service for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and it was a beautiful service. Boy, do you have some amazing musical talent in the church, and I was in and just a wonderfully welcoming spirit, and I felt very welcomed there. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you for being in the number. As you know, this Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King service has been going on at St. John's for a little over 50 years. In addition to having the celebration of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and the ideals that he stands for, justice, peace, and brotherhood. And so we also have the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Scholarship, which we have uh, always supported high school students matriculating into college with a scholarship award. And we've given that award to students at the Woburn High School as well as students at St. John's Baptist Church. And so we are continuing to do that this year. And again, thank you for being in the number and celebrating with us.
Yeah, it was a really touching tribute, and it was my joy to be there. I've also attended other events there as well. I know you have a health fair every year, and you really do incredible things to give back to the not just the St. John's community itself, but to the larger Woburn community, and we're super grateful for that, and I know I appreciate it. One of the things that we often look at is the groups that give to us. Sometimes we've got to give back, and this is an opportunity. You have a capital campaign running. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that and what the needs are there and learn how we as a community can support all the good work that you do.
Awesome. St. John's Baptist Church has been around for 138 years. And so it really is a historic church in our community. And we're at a pivotal point in time where we've been rebuilding not only at the congregation, but also the infrastructure of the church. And so, with that being said, we have recently launched our capital campaign to shore up the infrastructure of the church. And so the largest capital projects that we have had over the last 3 years is completing our roof as well as replacing our heating system. And as you know, a building 100 and it's been around 138 years. There's a lot that needs to go into maintaining that building. And so what we've done is launched a capital campaign. The structure of it is it's a 2-year campaign. We're looking to raise $200,000. To date, we're at 26,500, and so we're looking to really like get the word out so that people know that St. John's is here to stay and to continue to be a vibrant part of the Woburn community.
Well, it's not glamorous to fix roofs and heating systems and all of that, right? We know that, but it's so necessary, right? To make it a space that we can come together and worship and just bring each other and educate each other and support each other. You need the building to be stable. You need the heat to work. You need to be able to flush the toilets and
Yeah,
do all the things that make that a possibility. And so we're grateful for that. You're right off of downtown. It's an easy walk for folks to go to, and I know it's a place that lots of people get to use and leverage and feel really connected to in their
that's
life.
right. That's right. So when you think about using and leveraging the facility, some of the things that we've done over the last year or so is that we had the courageous conversations of which Mayor Concannon and many of our city officials came out and participated in, along with the high school and sister churches. And we had courageous conversations within the community, which I think that was a great opportunity for the Woburn community at large, as well as we had a community Advent celebration just past Christmas. And then in that community Advent celebration, we had members of the community come together. And the outcome of that was $500 donated to Social Capital Inc., which is another way
Thank
that
you.
we want to be in the community. And also, you've seen us out there with Juneteenth and
Hmm.
participating in the community around Juneteenth. And then this year, we're going to have what we're calling as part of the capital campaign fundraising praise dance workout. And so that'll be offered to the community for once a month. I'm starting on February 28th from 7 to 8 p.m. And so we're continuing along the theme of health and wellness. And so we'll have a praise dance workout. I would love to see you, Samantha. I mean, you can come, you can bring your mom, you can bring Mayor Concannon, your entire office. And so we
I
want
love it.
everybody out for a praise dance workout. 1 hour. We're not charging a fee, but we would love for folks to make an offering. No offerings too small, no offerings too large, and all the proceeds to go to the St. John's Baptist Church Capital Campaign.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, actually, and I love that you're doing it. I love the creativity you're bringing to the community and all the different ways you bring us together. For those folks who do want to donate and contribute to this, you're off to a fabulous start. I know you've got a long way to go, but that's a really great start. Where can they make those donations?
You can make a donation by check and mailing that check to 38-40 Everett Street, Woburn, Massachusetts. And so that'll get mailed to the church, and then we'll receive that and deposit that and record it accordingly. For those who are savvy enough to navigate the internet, you can visit sjbc.info. That is sjbc.info. From there, you'll be brought to the church's website. On that main page, if you scroll down, you'll see a little bit of information about the capital campaign, and there's a pledge button saying pledge today. Click that, and then it'll bring you to our capital campaign website where you can make a donation and also keep track of how we're making toward our goal.
That's wonderful. Thanks for making it easy for everybody. We appreciate that very much. Any upcoming events you want to share with our audience so they can come down and say hello in person as well?
Well, Sunday service is at 11 a.m. So please feel free to come down to Sunday service. We have Bible study on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And so I look forward to seeing you out on Wednesdays. Also, I told you about the praise dance workout that's going to be on February 28th at 7 p.m. And we'll do that most likely the last Friday of every month during the capital campaign. And also our health fair this year is going to be on May 17th. And so we have 10 vendors already lined up. So please come on out on May 17th for your free screenings and to get all that you need to be physically and mentally strengthened in this time and season. And then also what we have going on in the community, it's not necessarily at St. John's, is that we have the Christian Unity service at St. Barbara's Church. This is going to be on February 9th this week. And so, and that'll be at 2 p.m. So please, I look forward to seeing you at any of those events. And thank you for this opportunity to connect with you and the Woburn community.
I really hope a lot of people take you up on the invitation to the health fair. It was really great last year. I got like a discount coupon to a farmer's market. I got some seeds to plant, talked to some folks about a great mental health hotline. I believe our substance use mental health coordinator will be there, Mackenzie as well. So it was just, I didn't know what to expect, and I got to meet all these wonderful people and walked away really with some great ideas. So thank you so much for everything that you're bringing to the community.
Thank you, Samantha. And again, I'm looking forward to seeing you around the neighborhood. And it's a pleasure connecting with you and Woburn today.
Excellent. Woburn, as always, please continue to take good care of each other.